Write the following system of equations as a matrix and solve. Okay, so here it is, the system of equations. So this is our original problem. I want to write that in terms of matrix. So notice that the first column, right, this first column is the coefficient of all x's, 1, 2, -3. The second column is the coefficient of all the y's, -2, 1, 2. Third column is 3, 1, -2, which is the coefficient of all z's. And of course, 7, 4, and -10 are the y value for those equations. So let me just go ahead and clear this up. So this is this right here. The first one is the system of equation, and this is representing the same thing, but as a matrix. So let me go ahead and go to the next page. I have already done this problem for you. Continuing from the first page, so this is the original, this right here is the original matrix that came from the system of equations. And so the goal is to make this left triangle, turn that all to zeros. And then also turn, let me change a different color. This looks like a triangle. Turn all those numbers to zeros. And on the middle diagonal, this one is 1. And if I turn this -2 into 1, then I know the value of x, the value of y, the value of z. So that's the goal. There is no one unique way of doing this. Well, the general consent is usually it's easier if you go down right, like steps down right. So, but there's always exceptions. So how did I approach this? So far, we said that this was our original problem. Now, if I multiply the row 1 by -2, let me clear this from here. So if I multiply row 1 by -2 and add it to row 2, add it to row 2 in here and use that as my new row 2, then I'll get a 0 in here. So notice that -2 times 1 plus this 2 is a 0. -2 times 2 is -4. Added to this 1, -2 times -2 is +4. Added to that 1 is 5 right here. -2 times 3 is -6. Added to the 1 is -5. And finally, -2 times 7 is -14. Added to this 4 is giving me -10 right here. Okay, so let me clean all these arrows. And now I'm going to go ahead and continue. I'm going to go ahead and continue with this operation. 3 times row 1, add it to row 3, and put it in here, put it in here, put it in here, and put it in here. So as you can see, I successfully got a 0 in here. So 3 times 1 is 3. add it to -3 in here, and use it as my new row 3, and that's a 0. And one at a time. Continuing with that, so this now we are here. Okay, so notice that if I had ones in here and in here, it would make my life easier. So I'm going to multiply row 2 by 1/5 to turn this 5 into a 1, and multiply the entire row 3 by -4 to get a 1 in here. So row 1 remains unchanged, so I just wrote it down. Multiply row 2 by 1/5 is here. Multiply row 3 by -4 is in here. And finally, let's go to the next page. Now, if I multiply row 2 plus row 1 and use it as row 1, then I'm having my 0 in here. If I multiply row 2 by -1, then add it to row 3 and use it then as my new row 3, then I get a 0 here. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and multiply. Now I'm in this step. Multiply row 3 by -4/3 to make this a 1. So row 1 and row 2 remained unchanged on this step. And finally, the opposite of row 3, or we can say row 3 times -1 added to row 1. And now using that as row 1 is here. Then row 3 plus row 2, use it as my new row 2 is here. And row 3 doesn't change, and it doesn't need to change. So what's the beauty of this? So notice that this right here, this was my X column. And this was my Y column. And this one was my Z column. Okay, so on the first row, I have 1X, no Y, no Z equals to 2. So X must equal 2. On the second row, I have no X, 1Y, no Z equals -1. So they're here. So the value of Y is -1. And finally, the third row, 0x plus 0y plus 1z equals to 1. And so z must equal to 1. So remember, so the 2 is my x, the -1 is my y, and +1 is the value of the z. All right, thanks.